An economic collapse is coming. We are in the midst of a propaganda war, a war for information that wants to make you and me, wants to make the citizens of the world think that the United States dollar is stronger than it ever has been before, better than ever. The American economy is stronger and will never falter. That is simply not the truth. Sure, manipulated numbers and research data looking at specific information might show better yields and better returns than ever before. But in every crisis, in every economic collapse, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So let's look at some data on the average person of the world, you and me. A minimum wage worker right now needs to work 2.5 full-time jobs just to afford a 1-bedroom, very frugal, bare bones apartment. Over 90 hours a week, one person, just to afford housing to live. You might say, well, I'm a skilled worker. I have a skilled trade. I'm not going to work minimum wage, so that doesn't matter to me. Of course it does, because everybody who is restocking and inventorying the stores and the outlets that you continue to get your day-to-day sustenance, your day-to-day supplies from, they are likely minimum wage workers. So when that breaks for them, it breaks for you. When the stores can no longer hold their inventory, when no one will be able to put it up on the shelves, no one's there to ring it out at the register, that affects us all. And that's the majority of our world. The majority of the cogs and the gears that make the economy go round is the bottom. And those at the top stand to gain the most from that. And sure, there are stopgap measures in place and there are Band-Aids in place. And if you look at the economic crisis of 2001 and then the one of 2008, you can see that the Band-Aids that they put are still, there's a little blood leaking out, but they are still holding to varying degrees. The rich are still getting richer, and those are the numbers that we're force-fed. But the poor, the frugal, the people who aren't wealthy, who aren't in extreme excess in wealth, are getting even more dire. Their situation is getting more dire. Many minimum wage workers can't even afford a modest 1-bedroom apartment, according to the National Low Income Housing Coalition's annual report. So look at this doublespeak. Look at this propaganda, where at one hand, they use this national data and all of these government resourced information. They say, look how great the government economy is. Look how great it's never been better. And then you flip the side to that, and the National Low Income Housing Coalition's annual report says that a modest 1-bedroom apartment, a person has to make $17.90 an hour, while the federal minimum wage is $7.25. That means a low-income worker needs to work 2.5 jobs, over 90 hours a week, just to make ends meet. The National Low Income Housing Coalition's annual report recently looked at the housing wage, an estimate of the hourly wage a full-time worker needs to earn to afford a rental home or apartment in the United States of America. That means spending no more than 30% of their income on housing costs, which is a typical rule of thumb when budgeting for housing. Found that a worker needs to work 2.5 jobs just to afford housing. Let's look at the math. If a worker holds 2 full-time minimum wage jobs, they'd be earning $14.50 an hour total. Still under the $17.90 needed to afford rent and have 70% of your income left over for non-housing related expenses. The worker would have to take on another job, another part-time minimum wage job, just to make the difference. And we see this happening. If you talk to people and they're working just to make ends meet, they're usually spending closer to 50% of their monthly income on housing. And then they're scraping by all of the other things or needing other assistance programs just to make those things work. That is the product of a crippled and dying economy. And every single economy fails. Every single currency fails. Every single empire falls. We are in the midst of that today. And the reason that they don't want the people of the world to wake up and see that is because once that promise goes away, there is a great chance of civil unrest. There is an amazing chance of revolution. and they don't want that to happen. And that makes sense. Why not keep kicking this can down the road? Keep letting the wealthy get wealthier, the poor get poorer. Let's just keep it going for as long as we can. That makes sense because to some degree, you're going to have less bloodshed. Sure, people's lives are worse and worse. Diseases are, caused by stress, and those are skyrocketing. People can't afford health care. They can't afford to go to the hospital or the doctor or keep their children healthy. But there's no bloodshed in the street, and that keeps everybody going to work. So to some degree, that makes sense. Let's put these Band-Aids on. Let's get the most juice out of this lemon as we possibly can. Sure, it's rotten, but let's get the juice. And that's what's happening. Only 5 states, Arizona, California, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, have one-bedroom housing affordable for minimum wage workers across only 22 counties in the entire country. Can you work minimum wage and still afford housing? I'm sure those are amazing pieces of property. The housing wage for a one-bedroom apartment in Washington is $21.65. A worker would need income from 2 jobs at Washington's minimum wage of $11.50, the highest in all of the associated states, to afford a one-bedroom apartment. But what can we do? That's the important thing. What can you and I do for this, knowing that the economy is failing, knowing that we could have anywhere from a major crisis-driven disruption in the economy in the next 3 months, 6 months, year, all the way out to years of getting the rotten juice out of the lemon? What can we do? Well, the U.S. government says that you need to prepare. Governments of every country say that you, the individual, needs to take things into your own hands, take your own responsibility, and prepare yourself to not rely on the government. They tell you this using government-funded and government-produced and published media. Every state has a ready website that shows you need to have food stores, you need to have first aid, you need to have communications plans, your documents in order, so that when, not if, a disaster strikes of ungodly proportions, you'll be able to find some degree of sustenance. And that's really what it comes down to. You know, when we published our recent short film, and it was graphically detailed, but not graphically visualized, in which the main character had to kill his dog, his puppy, just to get another couple of days' food. And so many people, especially in our community, people who have thought through these things, say the guy had solar panels, the guy had an inverter, he had a gun, he had access to some woods. Why would he kill his dog? Hunger will make you do ridiculous things. This is proven time and time again across our world. So why wasn't he hunting? He was hunting, but he wasn't catching. They call it hunting, they call it fishing, not getting. And so we have this great veil in our community where we believe that you'll just be able to go out into these beautiful woods behind me, and the creatures will just walk into the sight of your firearm, and you will have a huge abundance of meat to take home. And that's simply not the case. As soon as the gunshots start, as soon as the creatures start seeing that being out in the open equals death, you can hear the coyotes behind me. Sounds like baby coyotes. The creatures start learning that as soon as you start taking them, they need to hide and they need to up their game. There's a great equilibrium here between the intake of foraged and hunting meat and people going out and doing it. Right now, a very small minimum number of people go out and hunt. As soon as that changes, hunting will become a very non-viable option. That's why hunters and gatherers were always on the move. Only animal husbandry and gardening will keep you sustained in one location. That is the only way. That's why we went from very mobile groups to standard town living. So we have to prepare for that, and that character wasn't prepared for that. He thought that he'd be able to just go out and hunt. Had hundreds of rounds of ammunition, all the time in the world, because the shit really hit the fan. But he couldn't get food. And so as you go to that time where your very meager cupboard runs out, you'll look for other sources. So what can we do? What can you and I do today? It's all about calories in, calories out. Get your calories. Calories are very inexpensive. If you look at a food budget and you say, wait, if the average person has to work 2.5 jobs just to afford their house, how could they afford to prepare? How could they afford sustenance? We don't need a grocery store's worth of variety just to sustain ourselves. All we need is calories in to fight off the calories that we put out. That is it. Sure, you're going to have a declination of overall health. Sure, you're not going to get your vitamins and nutrients that you need, but you will live. You will persevere, and you will be able to get to the other side of that crisis. So what can we do? We can go to the store, bulk surplus stores like Sam's Club, which is a branch of Walmart. That's what I have local to me. Yours might be different. You might have a Costco or just a small marketplace. And get bulk rice. Bulk rice is the easiest because it's already hardened. It's not as susceptible to dampness or a humid environment. Put it in Mylar bags. And guys, if you want to see me, if you want to see how we Mylar our food stores, just let me know. But there are a lot of great channels who even very recently have been doing Mylar sealing. It's worth checking out. Chip Signal on our channel, he went and for the first time purchased Mylar bags and was sealing up his goods. And he found that the bags he got had pinholes in them. So a very important tip, and we thank him for that. Always check, leave your buckets open for the next day and check and make sure the seal was there. Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, and rice. And you're going to get 6 months worth of food very inexpensively, a year's worth very easily. Might take up a little space, but oh well, you have 9 buckets, 12 buckets sitting in a corner stacked on top of each other. You will survive. It's very mobile. You can put it in your truck and get to another location, put it in your vehicle. You can put it on a wagon and take it with you. But you will survive. You will sustain yourselves. Now, add in a couple of canned foods, and canned foods are renowned for their high degree of sodium. You've got your salt intake. You're going to get your nutrients and vitamins, and you'll have people jump all over that. Some people are all or nothing, and they say, well, when you can food, you lose its great degree of its nutrients and vitamins. I guarantee you no one in Syria, no one in Yemen, no one in Venezuela, no hungry person in our world has ever cared about the the declination of their nutrients and vitamins because the food was canned. It's nutrients, it's vitamins, and it'll help sustain you. It'll keep you healthier. It's a very simple walk towards preparedness. It doesn't take great deals of money. It doesn't take a huge amount of time. All it takes is good forward movement and a thoughtful process. And we each can do it. And if you guys need help kind of mapping that out, let us know in the comment box. Or if you have another proven way to become prepared, please let us know. We just talked about the other night, hoping that everybody will plant at least just one thing this week, just to learn how plants grow in your area at this time of the year. You can keep a plant journal. Current temperature, current humidity, average sunlight throughout the day. See what it takes to grow that plant. See what's killing it today. Because today you're not hungry and today you don't need it. So learning your soil and learning how to plant in your environment will make a crisis garden that much better, that much more fruitful. Special thank you to all of our Patreon members for making these videos possible. If you have other tips for people who need to get prepared, please put them in the comment box below. Or, in opposition, if you believe the propaganda machine and you say, it's never been better, America has never been greater, I believe everything that the government has told me, while they simultaneously tell you the other information, let us know that in the comment box below. We'd love to have that discussion because there is a great degree of duality taking place right now. A special thank you also to the sponsor of today's video, USABerkeyFilters.com. It's a new face and a new site for a very trusted source of Berkey water filters. We actually got our Berkey, and still the only Berkey that we use, nearly 8 years ago. It's the Imperial model. It holds roughly 4.5 gallons. I think it will filter up to 16 gallons per hour if you have all the units inside. We use it every single day and have for the last 8 years. We never had any problems with it. It gives me that peace of mind, and that's what having a filter is about. But if you're looking to protect yourself and your family during a crisis and you want to be able to go to that creek, like we have right behind me and pick up that muddy, nasty water full of bacteria and things that are going to give you diarrhea and put it through a filter and trust it, consider using something like a Berkey. Visit usaberkeyfilters.com and see if a Berkey with a lifetime warranty is the right solution for you. As always, from Kelly and I to you and yours, please stay safe and keep watch.